right, everybody. How are we doing today? My name is Noah Pfister with Showverse, and today I have a very special guest with me. I have the writer, director, and actor of the upcoming film Tales from the Crypto, which tells the story of Ravi and a couple of his friends as they start investing in crypto during the height of the global COVID pandemic. Now, the writer and director is none other than Marcus Niehaus. Marcus, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for bringing me on your show. This is great.
Hey, well, thanks for being here. I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk with us about this.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
Now, first off, right off the bat, where exactly did the idea for this movie come from?
Okay. This is so it's kind of weird. This is a story of circumstance. I kind of dabble in crypto and I was talking to one of these guys. I joined this group that actually I based this off of. This movie's kind of like 60% true. I joined this group, this Discord bot, which I don't know who understands what a Discord bot is. And kind of trading, dabbling, and some people have done really well. Talking to this one guy just off to the side, telling about filmmaking and stuff. He's like, "Oh man, we should fund your project. There's people who've made money. We can make money off of like have investors from crypto investors, to fund this horror film that I've been wanting to do." And I was really excited. And like anything over a few months, I realized, that was just kind of like not gonna happen. And I hate to say I got mad. I didn't get mad at him. I got mad at myself because I've been in LA for so many years and I haven't done what I wanted to do was make a film. And so I just have to make a film. And it was like crypto was staring me in the face. It was like right there. And I thought, I've never seen like a realistic crypto film because I know these people now. And I'm like, well, that's something I can shoot on my own, and fund, And so that's kind of how I started. And I was like, I don't know if that could be a story, so I had to like figure out a story, and that was the start of the journey right there.
And I'm guessing since you said this is partially autobiographical, I'm guessing setting it during the pandemic kind of helped streamline the focus and give you the long-winded explanation as to why and how crypto is what it is and why these characters are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not technically about me. It's about these two guys that created this group. I mean, these guys are like brilliant, like computer programmers, and in 2020, I think they started this thing and tracking Uniswap, which was what I thought was really interesting, like DeFi trading, which sounds like weird to people, but it's really fascinating to me. And that was really the start of it, 2020 going into 2021. And then I joined later. But then I found the beginning of all that really fascinating. And then really, but building into these people's friendships, I'd never been in an online friend group. And now I have, I mean, it's kind of not too much now, but like all these new online friends that are really smart and funny. I just wanted to see if I could recreate that in a movie and, figure out a story along with it, which was the difficult part.
No, and I will give you this. I'm guessing this is among some of your first features, right? Like your first kind of directorial debut of sorts.
Yes, I'd made it, oh God, too many years ago. I made like a sort of mini, it was supposed to be a short film. It ended up being 40 minutes, which was the worst thing I could have done, made a 40-minute film called Open Up. I was really happy about it, but there's nothing I could really do with it. It couldn't be in short film festivals and couldn't be in feature lengths. So, over the years, I've made a couple other short films, like, less than 10 minutes. But I wanted to make a 90-minute film. So this is my first 90-minute film, feature film.
And by the way, I would like to say that as someone who's had the privilege of being able to see it, especially outside of DWF, I thoroughly enjoyed it and
Oh, thank
watching these characters and their camaraderie build. Plus, eh, moving away from that for a quick sec. Have you heard about the movie Eddington by chance? Ari Aster and
Yes, I really want to see it. I have two toddlers, which I've, you know, pretty much if you're like, I'm in kid zone for the last 3 years at the same time making this movie, but I can't like get out and watch movies. But that's one of my top films I want to watch.
Well, I would highly recommend it,
Okay.
but the reason I bring that up is that there are comparisons that I would like to draw, which is there are certain elements of this film that really do feel like an encapsulation of not just parts of the COVID era, but certain things that were big and things that were getting mainstream, talking about, such as Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and even NFTs.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you wrote this film probably what, last year, maybe 2024?
I started in 2022, so it took a
Oh.
long time. I did this, I mean, I'm not I feel like it can only sound braggy. I'm not trying to be, but I did it just by myself. I produced it and just had my DP and me pretty much most of the movie. And but yeah, I started in 2022 and wrote all through 2023 basically, and that was the writing part. Yeah.
Well, and I got to admit, for a feature debut, which this really is that, a lot of people try to focus on small casts, between, one, two, maybe three characters, but you have a grand total of about 12 characters that you actually put emphasis on,
Yeah.
about five of which are considered main characters, and the rest are just characters that we sometimes follow. I mean, you even have Ravi's parents and brother that we occasionally cut back to. You have the roommates and you have the other crypto bros that are part of it, and even what was it, Cobra Crypto?
Crypto Cobra. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Crypto Cobra. So I actually am wondering, what was it like having to balance all of these characters and not, overbear or overshare or overdo or underdo? What was that process like?
Well, it was difficult because writing, I didn't have a plan. I mean, I hate to compare myself to every other film out there, but most people have a good idea when they go into a film. I gotta say, I kind of had a bad idea, which is like, I don't have a story. I just have this like thing. So I didn't really have a plan. And I'm like, I had to sort of, I'm like, well, it was supposed to be more like, I don't know, My Dinner with Andre or something, just people chatting back and forth or oh man, another film that was mostly online, just something small, and it kind of got bigger. And I'm like, well, I have to have a story with this. So as it went along, I kept coming up with like, you know, like more characters in different scenes, and it kind of became more epic as it went along. And to balance that, really I was trying to balance the crypto, which I thought could have been uninteresting or boring, and then coming up with a story with it. But everyone loves the crypto stuff as well. So it's like, yeah, it's a kind of a long answer I have, but it was incredibly difficult to balance everything because I wasn't sure what people were going to be drawn into, and I still had to build the story and have this guy go through really a big journey, even though half the movie is in front of the well, in front of the computer screen. He really kind of goes through this journey of different scenes and stuff like that.
Which actually, this is kind of a two-parter, but allow me to at least ask the first part and try to give as short of an answer as possible so I can get into the second, which is
Yes.
essentially how long did it take for you to film this?
About a year. I'll say that. Yeah.
Okay, the reason I bring that up is because one of the cooler elements to me that I found within Tales from Crypto is that you actually do see characters kind of age a little bit. Like, it's nothing like Boyhood where it's so drastic. You're just like, hold on a second, what's going on? Like, something just happened here. Like, what's going on? It's a very slow progression. I mean, Ravi, we see him through, multiple shaves, multiple haircuts, and even your character in Nick has a couple different transitional periods as well. And we do see characters come and go, but also change, physically throughout the majority of the film. So I'd like to draw praise and, say that that was actually one of the cooler elements of the movie because this is supposed to take place over the course of about, I think, 7 months while they're stuck in
Yep.
quarantine. And that attention to detail of feeling like these characters are stuck in their rooms and don't really have anywhere to go, really help build and kind of solidify that nature of being stuck in quarantine, which for those of us that lived through it felt way too familiar.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I was actually gonna try to go further with it with like different haircuts and stuff like that, but I couldn't do that. So I picked a few select scenes to have, full beards as we could. But can I tell you a funny story? The first thing we shot, as if you can imagine, was I was like, let me just do this one scene with the full beards with me and I'm full as full as we can get, grow it out for a month. And we shot that. It was the first thing we shot. Came actually into this room and shot another quick little scene with Ravi's beard. And he went to go shave, and my DP is working by himself, like he's doing all the sound and stuff. And it's the first time he used that camera, and he realized there was a crazy ND filter he hadn't used in years. So we basically lost all that footage with that. And he's like, "Can we shoot it again?" And I'm like, "No, he was mid shave." So we had to take a break from filming and grow the beards out again. And that was the most painful thing. It was my first scene, and it was so painful. I'm not trying to put it on the DP. Had I had a 10 crew, and I love the guy. He's so great, but it was just a circumstance. It was like it had to be. But we all just did it again, and we grew the beards out again, and I hated the first one anyways. So we did it so much better.
No, and I look, it's funny. I've done a lot of these interviews, and one thing that's always constant, and at least for those of us that have worked on movies, is that there is no such thing as a smooth shoot. You
No.
know, there never is, but there are some shoots that are smoother than others, and of course, mistakes will always be made.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of how creating art works, and you happen to have a very hairy mistake. There's nothing wrong with that, and but there's other things I'd like to kind of draw praise to, and that is um, the focus on the characters. Because, well, let me rephrase this a little bit. So you found a hard time kind of creating a story with all of the crypto talk and some of these characters. You were trying to find a through line. So what I'm wondering, if you can tell us, with ever how much detail you wish to disclose,
Sure.
how, like, was there like kind of a circumstance where you were just kind of writing it again and adding as you were going along, or were you
Oh,
like, yeah, filling in scenes along the way, trying to help make things more cohesive? I'd like to hear a
yeah.
little more about that because these characters do feel developed, and especially in the latter half of the movie when, scammers start coming into play, there are things that felt very real and very relatable to a lot of the people that even I knew who, lost money through, Ethereum or thinking that NFTs would be a good investment.
Yeah, no, I actually never stopped writing once. And the last scene, if you watch the movie, I totally rewrote the last scene halfway through the film, partially because I didn't think I could accomplish what was gonna do, and then I came up with so much, better sort of close, like final 2 minutes of the film, and so I'm really happy with that. But when I said I filmed it over a year, it was like on weekends or skipping a weekend or something like that. So in that time in between, I would always be I'm like, okay, I have to prepare. I have to think of everything I need to bring to set that day, that or that weekend or that location. But then I would like start to like just go, okay, let me just go over like every shot in my head, keep going over it. And then I come up with little ideas or little differences or something like that. So I kind of would like, yeah, do little writing things in between shooting, just naturally, But I will say the character work I worked on. I mean, everybody, I know we all work really hard on our films, but I wanted to make sure each character fit the tone and just I wanted to make sure each line kind of went into the next and it felt kind of almost natural. I wanted it to be funny, but I didn't want a lot of cheap jokes or anything like that or any lost dialogue. So I appreciate when somebody says they love the characters because I love them all and I know the actors are great. So I'm thank you.
Hey, no problem, no problem. And I also do want to bring up another thing. You actually do sort of co-star in this movie, as Nick. I mean, the main focus is on Ravi, but a lot of I don't want to say instigation, that's not the right word, but a lot of
Yeah.
the lot of the plot points that kick off Ravi's story do kind of fall on your shoulders. So what I'm wondering is, uh, I know you're not the lead, but you're still writing, you're still directing, you're still producing, and acting all at once. Can you describe what that process was like?
Yeah, and I didn't plan on like when I first came up with the character or whatever, I didn't plan on acting in it at all. So I was like, but once I started going through, once I really got the heart of Ravi and Nick, who was, to me a funny character, I was like, well, a lot of the tone of the comedy is going to start with this Nick character, I think, and them bouncing off each other, but it had to be very exact. So I started going through Rolodex in my head, just because most of the like half the cast was people I knew or knew friends of friends, and I was like, God, who could play this character? It has to be kind of perfect, or at least to the tone I want. And then so I started going. I'm like, well, this line has to be said like this. This is over a course of 2 months in the beginning, and then that's when I was like, wait, should I just do this or try to do this role? I'm like, well, that's a lot to do. So that was kind of starting with me acting. I didn't plan it at first, but I was like, well, that's one less person I have to schedule a lot. So, and pay like one less person I have to pay. They don't have to pay me or whatever. So that's how I started that. But then, yeah, balancing on my shoot days, even I didn't have my stuff memorized at all. So, Ariane, who's like exact on every single, he's like a computer. This guy just like comes in, he's like this brilliant actor, and then I had nothing memorized. So that was kind of tough to balance.
Well, I mean, for your first feature, as well as, really your first major acting role of sorts, I do
Yeah.
believe that you were able to balance everything pretty well, all things considered. And it's funny you bring up Ariane as Ravi. I do want to know, what was it like casting for him? Or was this just like he's your buddy and you go, hey, you want to be in a movie? Yeah, sure. All right, let's do it. Like, what was
Yeah,
that like?
not at all because I think it's not back is it backstage or yeah, whatever the main casting one is. I had to put out a casting call because I'm like, I don't know an actor like that could fill this role. So I put it out there and I think it was actually during the actors strike. So I got maybe like 150 responses and I went through all and nobody fit the role and so I almost changed the character because I'm like, well, I need somebody, and I can't get it. I just can't find someone, even though there were really good actors in there, nobody fit it. And then it started straggling, a few more people straggled in. He had been on vacation and he submit this role. He's like, hey, I'm really late, so you probably cast someone, but and the like I always say like it was like he had his reel that I clicked on and it was like half a second. He didn't even say his first line and I was like this guy's amazing. And I showed him to my wife. I'm like I hope this guy comes through. Like he's like amazing. He could do it. He's a star. Like he could star in this film. He can carry this film. I knew within like before his first line and his reel, and then he auditioned, sent me his audition tape, and he's just phenomenal. So that was exciting.
I mean, especially for a role like this, and a lot of the nuances that come with not only wanting to get into crypto, but for the reason that you want to do it, especially sending your, because the main thing for him was he wanted to send money back home to India, and for especially for his parents and for his brother. So I do want to know, what was it like casting their roles? Or was it more like you had Ravi first, and then as the film progressed and you realized you needed more motivation, that's when you added those characters in later? I'd like to hear the process of that.
No, well, actually, okay, I'm backtracking to writing.
Yes.
Uh, one of the one of the other crypto guys that I talked to in the group that I was trading in, we're all friends and stuff, and he was like a young man from India. He was about 24 at the time. He's probably 27 now, but I didn't have a story. I was like kind of bugging him for ideas. He's such a nice person. We have like 2 hour long chats. And I was like, oh, I just need some motivation. And he was talking about how this is almost a big problem, people putting up their farms in India to like come to the United States or Canada to go to school, and these kids, and they're like a bunch of them in debt, and he's like, and it happened to a lot of his friends. So I was like, oh, so I thought that just that right there was sort of the bridge. I'm like, well, we're gonna have to have scenes with the parents and stuff like that. So I did have that originally in the first, even in the first draft that I came up with. So and then casting them, I cast them the same way, and I mean, Anwar and Sadna were so obviously the two choices. It kind of made it easy. I'm like, they're the parents, so
No, obviously. And I will say this about a lot of the characters. There's a large focus, and that's really something, especially for a feature like this, that I always want to draw praise to because it makes the world feel alive. It makes it feel, real in ways. But the technicalities and drawbacks are now you have to juggle a lot of locations, you have to juggle a lot of people's schedules. And so what I'm wondering was because you have a lot of backgrounds, but it's mainly just a lot of bedrooms with a lot of computer setups. So in terms of the production design for a lot of these characters and their rooms, what was the process like trying to build that? Was it more like you had one single soundstage and you just kind of switch things in and out so it could feel, slightly different? Or did you go to these people's houses and be like, hey, can you begin to set up a camera here for like a day or two, record all your stuff, and then move on? Like, what was that process like?
yeah. I again like right in the writing process, I'm like, what can I shoot? And I'm like, oh, people's houses, like this. So that's why I started the film. So when it came time to shooting each actor, like just say take the crypto people, and for those guys, each actor I nicely said, hey, if you want to shoot in your own home, if you have a place to do this, you could save traffic. We can come to you. It's such a small setup. It's not going to interfere or anything. It'll take half a day for most of them, other than the four main guys.
Right.
So and yeah, and half the actors took me up on it. They're like, "Oh, I could shoot here. Yeah, this is great. I could just do it right here." The guy who played Crow, the guy who played Willow, those were at their houses. Not to not to tell people where they live or whatever. But then a few of the other ones, Aaron Oz and Khan, Matt and God Morphia, the actors well, I prefer to shoot somewhere else. Or Ivy, she's like, I'll prefer to shoot somewhere else. So I just one of them I got a friend to do, help me out. I used their place, and then I rented a place for like the Ivy character. I rented just rented a house off of yeah, I just met someone and just rented their house for like a few hours. So
No, and one, it's always good to hear how, these styles of location scouting come about.
yeah,
And, another thing that I really did want to draw praise to is your attention to detail.
thank you.
Because, like I said, each individual room did feel like it belonged to someone, like it was lived in. And it's good to know that in many ways they were lived in.
Yeah,
And on top of that, they feel so unique. It felt like something that it would belong to, I don't want to say crypto bro because I think only two characters in this movie really fit that classification
yeah.
of like a crypto bro, which now actually brings me over to one specific character, which is Crypto Cobra, right? That's
Yeah.
his name. Who is played by what's his name again?
Jeremy Uran, yeah.
Right, right.
He's
Um,
unbelievable. Just to stop, I had 2,500 actors send in that for that role, and I went through all of them, and you'd think it would be hard, but after compiling everyone, he was so obvious the choice. I even showed my wife, and she's like, "Is this a joke? You have these 20 guys. This guy he's like so far above everyone." Anyways, yeah, he was amazing. But continue the question. Sorry.
so no, don't worry. I've had the privilege with working with him on a
Oh.
project as well. It's currently in post. We can discuss that a bit later. But the reason I bring him up is because, as I mentioned before, this movie does feel a little bit like a time capsule,
Yeah.
in the same way that Eddington is, because it does feel very much like 2020, 2021, with, all the pandemic stuff and all the, crypto and there was an explosion of crypto bro channels and NFT
Yeah.
channels. And I remember that because I couldn't spend one day on the internet without getting slapped by it.
Yeah.
So his character in particular feels a little too authentic. And if it wasn't for the fact that I already knew who,
Yeah.
he was, I would have straight up been like, who who the fuck is this guy? Is this like a YouTube channel that I just don't know about that, slipped under my nose?
Yeah.
So I know this is getting drawn out and long-winded, but there is a point to bringing all this up, which is essentially he feels authentic. He feels exactly like the kind of YouTuber and scam artist, I feel like that's the
Yeah.
best way to describe it, that you would find during that era. What I'm wondering is, did you base it off of anyone in particular, or was it kind of like just an amalgamation of several, influencers at the time? But enough of my long-winded questioning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was mostly an amalgamation. Yeah, basically. But it's funny because like then I think it was like that guy, I don't know. It was like BitBoy came out like after I'd written the character and I'm like, "Oh, he's kind of like he's if there's one that he's most like, I'm like he wasn't even on my radar when I was writing it, but I'm like, God, that's kind of funny. He's almost kind of like my character, with some troubles he was getting in or something like that. It was funny, but yeah, there was just a lot. I don't really watch a lot of those guys, but people share stuff and we all just kind of groan. I'm like, oh, this guy, this guy, this guy. So I just kind of just, compiled a bunch of them together. But I do have to give a lot of props to Jeremy. I mean, he's an unbelievable actor, and he brought so much of that character just out of him, just from him. He somehow just I don't even know what he tapped into him. I directed him a little bit, but he was one of the actors that just kind of ran with it. And I said, I need a moment here for this and I don't know what to do. And he did it. He just came up with something like brilliant.
No, I do want to draw praise to him as well because I have seen what he is capable of, and he can sink into a role like that.
Yep.
And if you are stuck narratively speaking, especially with a character, I have seen him be able to just turn on a dime and just be like, "Yeah, no, I got it. It's right in here." And then he
Yeah.
gives you like the best response that your character can fill, and you're just like, "You know what? I trust you. Go." And so it's always
Yeah.
nice to have an actor whom you can trust to take the character to its most logical and more surreal place that fits within that narrative. And
Yeah.
and overall, I will this by the way, I'm going to say something. It
Okay.
is praise, I promise. But I fucking despised him so much. I
Good.
hated every time he was on screen, and I kept wincing and cringing just in pure disgust, which definitely means that you and him really made this character work.
That's
Uh,
great. It's great to hear. Yeah, it is great to hear.
no, but
Okay.
sorry, you were gonna say?
Oh no, no, I thought you were gonna keep going, so yeah.
Oh, I was, but this is more of like we've talked a little bit about the planning stages that went into making this movie, getting people together backstage, and even filming, especially with the beard incident. But you shot this, I'm guessing, between 2024 to 2025, if that's,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and so now you and your team have debuted it at the Dances with Films over in
Yeah.
LA, which, by the way, congratulations. I know how hard it can be to actually, just get in.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
so, a couple things. Congratulations on getting your film completed, which is already difficult as it is, and
Yes.
then
Thank you.
getting it submitted.
Yeah.
But you're probably wondering, where am I going with this? Well, the fact is that with a movie like this, which has hundreds of shots and quite a few dozen scenes in different locations, the editing process must have been rather tenuous, if that's the right word I can use. So, can you describe to me what the post-production process for Tales from the Crypto was like?
Yeah, you're right. It's complicated. I had a lot of it in my head. My friend Nick also helped me edit. He took on the first chunk as I was filming, and then basically the first act, first 15 minutes or whatever. And then I basically ended up doing the rest and other drafts. And then, he'd come back in and a couple other friends would come back in. So that was sort of the process. But I'm an editor by trade too, so that does help a little bit. But I found actually the hardest part was well, since a lot of it is like over the internet, I had to like almost scale back and make it more simple of like and I think simplicity and clarity was one of my main goals is like people have to understand what because it can be a complicated movie if I messed up at all, and it's still a complicated movie a little bit, I don't need people to understand crypto, but I really had to balance like what to show on the computer and things like that. So I had to build things on the computer. Everything, every shot you see on the computer, I had to build with like After Effects and stuff like that. And that was the hardest part, I think, is crypto became a character, and I didn't know how much of that character to show. Almost like Jaws with the shark. I'm like, how much of the shark do you show? For me, I'm not trying to compare my movie to Jaws, but it's like, how much do you show? And actually, my first edits showed a lot less, and people were like, I need to see what this character's looking at right now. And I thought that was really interesting. So between Nick, my co-editor, and my wife Mary, and a couple other friends, they had to come in and sort of tell me what I needed to balance for those scenes at least. So that was mostly the process there.
But even so, I mean, there's a lot of footage you have to sift through, and it's clear that you were editing on the go to try and make sure everything was fitting right as you were shooting. But
Yeah.
as with a lot of cases when it comes to editing, there's things that are usually left on the cutting room floor. So what I'm wondering is, were there scenes, characters, moments, shots that you had to, well, obviously shots, but were there anything that you had to cut out that you really wish you didn't have to?
Um, I didn't cut out a ton. Everything kind of worked out pretty well. There's only, sometimes it was like, if it felt slow, there's like a scene where Ravi like kind of apologizes to his parents over text or something. And then he kind of apologizes later. People are like, I'm like, can I just get rid of that scene? Because it felt like it slowed the movie down even though there's like a couple tiny little details missing. So anything that really slowed the movie down, I got rid of. But there was one chunk of dialogue, about 2 minutes of one scene that I did cut. It was mostly with my character, kind of some backstory. I felt like it was necessary in the writing process, but once I got to the editing, I just kept staring at this. I'm like, I don't want to hear. It's slowing. It's like I don't care about my character's backstory. It would have been nice, but it would have been a nice thing, but I just sort of calculated it wrong into the story where it fit. If I had done it earlier, it might have helped. But and I kept bugging people, and they're like, "Yeah, maybe you can get rid of it." And I cut out all my dialogue because it kept annoying me. So yeah, I did lose that. Ariane fought me on it, but it was the right call. He wanted to keep it in. I wanted to get rid of it. So it worked. I think it works.
Man, imagine having to cut out your own character's dialogue like in the editing process. I can't imagine what that must have been like. Just what you watching and you're just like, yeah, I don't like me. I'm gonna do that. Let's get this taken out. So I do commend you
Yeah,
for that.
no, yeah, I was actually really happy about that part of the story in the writing, and I was like, it's really nice to get these details and some backstory, and it was a little more drama. And I thought that my acting was decent on it too, and I was really happy with it. But when it came to the story, I'm like, it just doesn't. It throws you like a little bit of a curveball, and not in a good way. And yeah, it was a little painful, but I don't even care if it's me. I'm like, if it doesn't fit, just get rid of it.
No, obviously, and with I think I've said this phrase before, but Denis Villeneuve, director of Dune, has talked about cutting scenes that he wish he could kept in as killing your darlings, and
Yeah.
it's what's most necessary to tell a better story. Uh, and on that note, actually, I do. You now have completed your first successful feature. You have it put in to a film festival, and it's clear you had to cut things out. This was a long process. to right from development all the way to its a release. It's basically a 4 year period. And I'm not knocking the effort that was put in, which there's clearly been a lot. However, who is our own worst critic?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
So, what I'm wondering, at least from your perspective, you don't need to go into that much depth if you don't want to, but are there certain things that you would have liked to have changed, or certain pieces of dialogue you would like to have tweaked a little bit? Anything from small to large that you yourself watch back and you go, nah, if I could have done better, or I could have changed this. Is there any certain thing that you feel?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think well definitely one of the I think probably like a critic watching or something like that, I think for me like the stakes of the movie could be stronger. And I've seen that in a couple like and there's a couple other like reviews and stuff, like, oh, the stakes of this and this. And I agree. And actually that was Arian's first note about the film when we were watching it. And we actually added a few little scenes before we got to the end of filming, which is nice. But just to kind of raise the stakes a little bit. But I didn't, I wouldn't have wanted it to be just about money. Just like someone raising money to help his parents out. It sounds noble, but for stakes of a movie, it's like it's not it doesn't and so criticizing my own film, it would have been nice to have maybe one of the roommates get a little stronger in the beginning and something with his character, you'll never be a leader or something like that. I think that would have probably been the biggest thing I could have worked on a little more, but I just wanted to I got to keep moving, and at some point you got to move on from the script and start shooting. So that's why I didn't go deeper into that. And when I look back, that would have been great. But also but I think sometimes people get too much into things like that. And three of my favorite comedies of all time, Office Space, Bottle Rocket, and Napoleon Dynamite. If I were to judge those as like films, I'm not comparing mine to them, but like sometimes the stakes in those three films, I'm like, oh, they don't seem very high. And someone can argue with me on those, but it's almost like a natural sort of getting into a story. And I think I did that, and I just hope well, it's not gonna win an Oscar or something like that for story or something. That yeah, I guess that's my answer to that.
No, and ironically enough, I I do want to partially agree with you. I do. I do feel like there could have been a little more emphasis on Ravi's parents, personally speaking. But what I think works so well is that the stakes aren't nearly as high as other films. It very much feels like more about just a period in time, like a slice of life.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needed stakes to tell a truly interesting story because, this really is just about a man, his friends during a period in his life. And sure, there were, slight tedious and tumultuous aspects of it all, but I feel like that's kind of the seasoning that creates a very unique flavor for the movie. It's very low stakes, but it's the investment in the story that I think really sells this film.
Oh, I appreciate hearing that. And one of the things that another thing that a few other reviewers have said is like it almost feels like a coming of age story for this character. And that never occurred to me. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Especially with a lot, like you said, like there's like 31, 32, 33 speaking parts of other, quick little characters. It started to get kind of epic to me, even though it's a 90-minute film. And so maybe it kind of is like a, coming of age story for this young man, really, which is interesting to me.
No, I can definitely see that, especially with the roommates aspect, which by the way, I thought I've had bad roommates in the past, but oh Lordy, what's it doing on the floor? That's
Yeah.
where it belongs. But oh no, I do also want to say, what's the character's name? The fat guy with the beard who, by the way, the shower's clogged and the toilet doesn't have water.
Oh
Why?
yeah. The character's name's Steve. I don't think it's ever said in there, but Max Crandall. He's an unbelievable actor. I'm sure that's where you're going with it.
It's not only that, but here's the thing that I always like trying to do is that I like being able to praise at like because I love movies and I always like to pinpoint certain things where it shows not only an actor's capability, but a director and even writer's capability as well. This film has a lot of natural progression and it does have arcs that are open and closed. His in particular is one that is so very small, but I feel it's very impactful as well because, it's not an overall spoiler to the movie, but I do like how we do see him kind of go from just a background dude who just comes in to deliver like the most inconvenient news. Not bad news, just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
inconvenient news. But I do like that even Ravi kind of realizes, like, because there are certain elements where he is so reclusive from everybody in his outside life because of crypto and everyone they talk to online that the moments of character interaction that he gets outside that, especially with Steve, I do think really hammer home one of the minor themes, which is just, yeah, it's good to be invested in something for other people, but if you don't put the emphasis on other people, then what's the point of doing any of this? And we do see that with one of his companions who slowly loses all of his money because that was really the only focus. But I do want to drop praise to Steve's character in particular because it's a very small thing, but it was probably one of the more deeply impactful moments in the movie for me.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I would give us testament to his acting as well. And I really that character sort of grew in my mind too. And he is one person that I wrote for the part, but I actually didn't know how good of an actor he was, even though it's not a giant part in the movie. Yeah, he nailed every moment home, and he actually expanded when they have like dialogue scene, their sort of biggest dialogue scene. He kind of expanded that scene. Him and Ariane went off and they're like, hey, can we just add a little bit to that? So they actually he tells a little story before they get into everything, and he kind of wrote all that himself, so which is kind of cool.
No, it's like I said before, it's always nice to have faith in your actors who understand their characters, and it really allows the world to just feel much more rich, and even for the movie to feel even richer. And I would like to kind of bring everything back full circle and just, throw praise to a first time director and his first feature. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I really hope that it does well in Dances with Films. I really mean that, Mark. If
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's nice to hear, especially when you work on something for more than 3.5 years and then you're finally done. It's like a relief to me, but and I've seen it 200 times now, and I have no opinion on the movie anymore. It's just like a blur. Like every edit is a blur to me that I went, took out 2 frames, added 2 frames, 15 times to each edit, and I'm like. So I don't really have, I'm so burnt out on it. It's nice to hear people's opinions, and it's nice to hear people, and the audience was great. They laughed so much that it made me feel really good, watching it in the theater with them.
and I'm so glad to hear that, and I hope that you've taken a lot from what you've learned here because unfortunately, I, as well as most other audience members, are greedy bastards who always want more, 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 more. So, what I'm wondering is, do you have anything else coming up that we can be on the lookout for? Another Marcus Niehaus feature, or even a short that we should be keeping our eyes and our ears out for?
Well, I had like starting this film, I had a horror film all ready to go. I wrote with my friend. I've been excited about it for years. So, if it ever comes down to it and I get, I couldn't fund that myself because of probably the scope of the project, but I'm ready to go for that. So we'll just kind of have to see how this next year or so progresses with me, and hopefully this film helps out to make something like that. But I'm so happy with this film and the way it came out.
Hey, I'm really glad to hear that. And for those of you watching, information about the film will be in the description below. Whether or not this film will get a wider release is still unknown from what I've heard. But if any of that ever changes, links to that will be in the description below. I really hope you eventually get a chance to watch it. I think it's well worth your time. And with that, it would appear our time has come to an end. Marcus, I really appreciate you being on the show with me today and giving some of your time to talk about your film. It really means a lot to me.
I appreciate it even more. I can't believe, great reviewers like you are just even chatting with me. So it feels really good, and I'm glad you like the film, and I hope everyone else does.
All right. And on that note, take care. See you on the next one.